Welcome back. Today we're going to do our 2019 holiday gift guide. This is our version of the gift guide, and we're going to go through 4 different categories that kind of label the games that we feel should be gifts or gifted to your friends, your family, your parents, your brothers, sisters, relatives, whomever.
Yeah, there's not necessarily our favorite games. These are just really good gift ideas this year.
And they may show up in our top 10 later.
Yes, they may.
Yeah,
they probably will.
If you're watching this and you're trying to buy a gift for your loved one, I think if they're a gamer, they're going to love any game that's on this list.
I think so.
And if they're not a gamer, we've got games for them too.
Yeah, that's true.
Is that the gift of like you get your partner the board game for their Christmas present?
To them for you.
Oh, honey, we're going to play this one together.
One thing I should mention too, this isn't a top 10. This is actually a unified list that we all spoke about. We all kind of agreed on what we felt were the right games. We went through a number of different categories to kind of pare them down, and all of games that we've played as well, either reviewed or previewed or done something with, talked about on Chit Chat or one of our different programs. So you're going to get games that are really, really good.
Yeah.
And there's plenty not on this list too that we cut that could have been on this list for sure. So this has been a good year for games.
All right, we're going to start, Kira, let's start with you, and we'll come around this way. We're going to start with the family gateway games, and obviously these are games that are geared more towards either people being introduced into the hobby or to sit down with your relatives during the holidays themselves. So
Absolutely. So mine is one that the hype was really hot on this one, and I was very much like, I'm sure it'll be fine. And I played it, and I personally loved it, is Wingspan. Great game. It's very appealing and approachable to a gamer, and I think
anyone really.
Yeah, anyone. So you want to introduce your family to a very easy game to learn and enjoy. The theme is nice. The gameplay is easy. It's a really great game, and it's also got an expansion now, so you could even do 2 gifts.
Yeah, I think it's the theme, which is weird to us as gamers at first when we heard there was going to be a game about birds, but like everyone can kind of relate to that, right? And it's kind of interesting in this sort of like old-fashioned, like educational way of looking at all those bird cards and reading all the statistics.
I think that's one of the neat things too, is that it can be played as a game and it can be played as an educational tool. Like I could really see this game being introduced to classrooms.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Introduce people
Yeah, there's all
about
kinds
nature.
of interesting facts about the birds, and where you place them actually matters to the species of the bird and where their actual habitats are. It's all very educational.
And the most important thing is it's a very, very good game.
Oh, very good.
Yeah.
So,
All of these games really are very, very good games.
yeah.
And speaking of which, my family gateway is Horrified. Unlike birds, this is a very different theme. It's sort of the classic monsters in that Universal movies world, like Frankenstein, Creature of the Black Lagoon, those kind of things. This is a co-op game also, which I think is a really good thing to introduce to families. I played this over the Thanksgiving break with some extended family who'd never played it before, and we even got sort of high school aged kids who usually like go, I'm good, I don't want to play
with
games.
the parents.
Totally into it and really thinking about what we needed to do, and we ended up winning. It was pretty good, very good experience, excellent game, probably one of the best co-ops for me, certainly this year, if not all time. I really, really like Horrified.
Cool. My game that I'm going to talk about is Azul Summer Pavillion. This is the 3rd game in the series. It retains all the things that you really like about Azul. It has the drafting in the game. You have your own personal player board. You're trying to gain points from combinations of things. But speaking of combinations, that's one of the unique things about this, is that it adds combos. And I always look for games that have that aha moment. And this game has that aha moment. As players play the game, they realize that I can do this to trigger this, to trigger this, to trigger this. And there's several of those points throughout the game, and it's just a really, really enjoyable game.
Yeah, the second one in the Azul series probably was the low point, but the first one and this one probably are the quintessential gateway suggestion these days. Like if someone says, what's a good gateway game? Like Azul's got to be the first thing out of your mouth practically.
Right.
So my gateway game would be a Funkoverse strategy game. And this is a game that, when it came out, I think a lot of us were very skeptical. Of course, Funkos, the Funko Pops, are very popular. In fact, your kids probably have them. Your family probably has them. So the idea of that
You probably have them.
I definitely have some. But that idea of taking that Funko and making it a board game sounds like it could be very gimmicky. But what they delivered was actually a very accessible strategy game that is still heavy on strategy, while also making the rules very easy to understand. And the game is incredibly customizable, so you could play it with your kids and just have fun with it, or you could play it at a higher level with adults And there's so many different varieties. We have Harry Potter out right now, DC characters, Batman,
The Golden Girls.
the Golden Girls, Rick and Morty. So there are more to come. So kind of
Harry
whatever
Potter, too.
whatever your love is, you're probably going to find a version of this game for you.
Yeah. All right. So that is Family Gateway. And the next category is going to be Party Social Games. And these fall into a wide range of different categories as far as the type of game. Kira, again, let's start with you with Party Social.
So it's almost funny because people that know me know I'm not a big social deduction game person. There's only been really one that's stuck with me that you guys introduced me to, which was Don't Mess with Cthulhu a long time ago. So this is my other Don't Mess with Cthulhu game, I guess, is Grim Masquerade. I really, really enjoy it. It's beautiful. It's in the Grim universe with Skybound Games characters and all that beautiful artwork. Is it Mr. Cuddington that does the art for that?
That's great.
Wonderful. And of course, it's got the fairy tale element. So it's very accessible to families. It's very accessible to party. And it takes it and gamifies the deduction in a very fun way. I think it's a very great game, and it's a good price point and a great holiday gift.
Very quick to play, too. You can get a game in like 20 minutes. So
Oh, totally.
Very fast.
Mine is Paranormal Detectives. This one's from Lucky Duck. We got a chance to play this, just around Essen, right before Essen this year. This is quite an experience. One person's playing a ghost. Everyone else is playing the detectives. The ghost is the ghost of a person who died. And there's all these cards that tell you, the ghost, how you died, with all of these sort of different categories of like who did it, how they did it, why they did it, that sort of thing. And the people around the table are trying to figure that out. And it seems like a lot to figure out at first. The first time I played this, I thought, no one's going to get any of this. And the gimmick here, and it's a very, very cool aspect of the game, is the ghost is communicating to all the people at the table individually or potentially in a group in all sorts of crazy different ways. I might be writing things on Jeremy's back, and he has to figure out what I'm writing. And then I might be shaping some things with like rope on the table. The cool thing is he might have the knowledge of what was written on his back, but not have any idea what it was. But then I might do something on the table that makes him go, oh, that's what that was on my back. So the players really do start to figure out what the situation is. In fact, when we played on our live stream, did you win?
I did win.
Yeah.
And you
We were
figured
all
it out
pretty
right
close.
away, right?
Yeah. Well, we all were doing about the same thing, but this is a competitive, so that's why it's not cooperative. So Jeremy might have information. Some of the information we're all kind of gathering, but that, like writing on his back, that's only something he's going to know, which is why then all of a sudden we're like, no, write on my back too.
Exactly.
So.
And of course, all those things make for like a really fun, hilarious time because I'm sitting there writing on the back, and inevitably someone's like, I've no idea what he's doing right now, and everyone else is laughing along.
All right, so my game kind of falls right in that weird, more of an enthusiast game, but also it is a party social game, and it's called Mystery House. It's from Cranio Creations. I'm a sucker for escape room games, and they've all relatively been card-based up until now. This is the first game that uses the actual box as a tool for the game. You're actually sliding components in to create rooms in the box that you can see through. And each of them has their own mystery that you're trying to solve. And the way it becomes a party social game is that all the players are picking up the puzzle and rotating it and looking down these hallways. So everyone's cooperating all the time, giving clues back and forth, trying to figure out what that mystery is. And it's a timed event too. You're going to be using an app. It's just a really, really fun game that a lot of people can participate in. Even though there's only 4 sides to that box, you can have multiple people peering into it and trying to help.
Yeah, that's a good time around the table. I only watched you guys play it. And even that was fun, just as kind of like a spectator watching everyone like sit there and rotate the box, and everyone's like, oh no, turn it back here. I thought I saw something. So yeah, it's a good time.
All right, mine is definitely more on the party side of things, and that's Medium from Greater Than Games. This, I think, took a lot of us by surprise, and it's quickly become my favorite go-to party game. And the premise of it sounds so simple. You have a hand of cards, you play a card, your opponent plays or your teammate plays a card, and they have words on them like boat and vacation, and you just need to say a word that's right in the middle.
Let's do it.
Well, that would
1,
be easy.
2, 3, cruise.
Right? but you might not. You might go somewhere else.
Yeah.
Like they might say Carnival, right, or Royal Caribbean, and then you have this new turn where you're trying to compare those two words together, and it's chaotic, it's hilarious, and when you are like with your partner and just you're getting those guesses, it's like such a satisfying feeling. You can't help but just like high five or
Moon boots.
cheer. Right. So it's a game that anyone can play as long. We played with, I think as young as like 6 years old was at the table playing with a little help.
Yeah.
But it was a really fun experience. I've taken it to every party I have been to since I got that game.
Yeah.
Great game.
Would we all agree for this year anyway? Medium's got to be probably the
top
party,
party
game
game. Yeah.
of the year.
I would.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
One of the best party
it's
games
up there.
of the past couple
It
years.
sits alongside Just One and things like original
Time's
code
Up,
names
yeah.
and
Yeah.
stuff
Time's
like
Up,
that.
yeah.
Yeah.
All right, the next category is one of David's favorite. These are 2-player games, and there's no explanation needed here. It's just one-on-one.
Yeah, so I'm going to talk about, I mean, this is a favorite of many of us, I believe, but Watergate, obviously, great game, 2-player, good push-pull, very easy to learn, very quick to play, and it's asymmetrical. So very, very cool. Definitely check it out from Capstone Games.
Was not a favorite of Nixon's.
That's
Just
probably true.
Putting that out there, you probably
That's
wouldn't
probably
enjoy to
true.
play.
Another educational game too, right?
Absolutely.
Like I wasn't
Can
really
you
alive for
imagine
this.
Yeah.
Nixon playing as the editor? That'd
He
be
wouldn't.
funny.
He
That
would
would
never
be
do it.
interesting to watch.
But I learned so much about Watergate from playing this
yeah.
game. And there's what is All the King's Men, the movie that they made about Watergate.
Yeah.
It inspired me to
all the presidents.
all
Man.
the presidents. That's it. So
He's showing
it
his
inspired
young
me
age.
to watch that movie because I'd never seen it, and I was like, man, all these characters from the card, like it's very historically accurate to what
Yeah,
happened.
and in the rule book, all the cards are something that they're people or events that happened during that whole entire piece of history. And so they tell you what the card does and more explanation, but also gives you the history behind the card in the rule book. And then there's a whole, like half the rule book is the history.
They did a really good job, too,
really cool.
linking the cards with
The
kind
mechanics.
of the mechanics.
Yeah.
of
For
the
sure.
game.
That's what I was just about
The
to say.
multi-use cards, just everything about the game is great.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a very good 2-player game this
Yeah.
year. Another great 2-player game this year was Shobu. We played this. I think we first saw this. Maybe
Origins.
Was it Origins?
It was at Origins, yeah.
And then a lot of people picked it up at Gen Con as well. This is a 2-player abstract game where you have 4 boards, right?
Yep.
4 boards, one color stone versus the other color stone, and what you're doing is manipulating the stones on the boards by moving one stone on one color board and then going to the other color board and moving the same type of stone, your side, in the same direction, the same number of spaces on it. So I always like to say it kind of almost feels like the first turn is you're programming the second stone, but the other player is trying to keep you from knocking all of their stones off of a board. So it's kind of like a little sumo match going on all the boards. But when you move, when you're blocking someone, you're not just blocking them from the board that you're trying to protect yourself on, but you're blocking them from being able to do that first programming move. So it has a massive amount of layers. This is, for me, like right alongside Quarto for me as one of those really, really good 2-player abstract games for sure.
Yeah, really
And
nice
it's got a cool
production
rope
value.
that does
Yeah.
nothing whatsoever, but it sits in between the boards.
All right, my game is from Pencil First Games and designer Keith Matjeka, who also did Role Player. This one is called Kulk Hollow. It is a 2-player asymmetric game in which one of the players is playing the animals of the forest, and the other one is playing a giant hulking Colossus, so to speak. And it gets its inspiration, obviously, from Shadow of the Colossus, which is a very popular old PlayStation game. And it's one of the players, being the Colossus, is using their powers in order to overpower the animals, while the animals are trying to actually physically climb up that creature and to take them down. Super fun game, very easy to learn. It's just a basic card-based game with some miniatures, or not miniatures, but wooden
Meeple
token
type
Very
meeples
cool
on the board.
meeples, yeah.
Beautiful production value. A lot of different Colossus, 4 different Colossus in the box. A lot of different heroes that you're going to be able to use. Infinitely expandable. So if the game does really well, we're hoping to see more expansions with more giant Colossuses that you can fight.
Yeah,
in the game.
great game.
Yep.
So yeah, my 2-player game is unmatched from Restoration Games. While this game can be played with other player counts, 1v1 is where this game sings. For those who don't know, Restoration Games likes to bring old games back to the present, and this was an old Jedi or
Star Wars
Epic
Epic
Duels,
Yep.
which was an old Star Wars game, but they've taken the Star Wars license off of that, and they've partnered with Mondo. Mondo is an entertainment company. They do movie posters, games. They have a fantastic art department, and this gives them access to all of the IPs that Mondo has, plus the beautiful art. So everything in this game looks great. The gameplay is solid, and there is a huge variety of characters you can play. They have characters like Alice from Alice in Wonderland, Robin Hood, Bigfoot, Bruce Lee.
Yeah, it's a cool mashup of all these different type of properties. I mean, when
Who
you can
would
play
win in a fight between?
Right. Exactly.
Bruce Lee versus Sasquatch or the Bigfoot.
Right.
I mean, that's crazy.
And talking about infinitely expandable, they have a Jurassic Park set coming out, and one that it won't be out in time for the holidays, but they have a Smoke and Glass expansion, which is like Jack the Ripper and like all these like
really?
Victorian
That looks super cool.
like era. Yeah, it's really cool looking. So
Sweet.
unmatched.
All right, so we're on to our next category. This is one we would consider to be the most crowded. This is enthusiast games, and this has actually been one of the best years for games in general. There's so many quality games on the market right now. It's really hard to decide as a consumer, what do I buy someone? What do I even play? What do I want to have on my shelf? What do I want to introduce to new people? So we actually looked through this list quite a bit and came up with 4 games that we feel as a group are the best 4 enthusiast games of 2019.
Yeah, and probably, like you said, more of the accessible ones.
Approachable,
probably
for sure.
more
As
approachable.
gifts.
Because there's some spectacular games that we cut
That are
would,
heavier, yeah.
That would likely be on our top 10 lists.
Yeah, but these would probably appeal to almost any gamer.
Yeah, more
Right.
people.
Yeah. All right.
So this one is Taverns of Tiefenthal. It came out originally as Die Tavernen Tiefenthal from Schmidt-Spiel and is now in the United States from North Star Games. And this one I think we really picked because it is, yes, a very enthusiast game, and it was so very, like in the hobby, those of us who could get access to the German edition did, and we got a lot of chance to play it, and then everybody's like, when's it coming, when's it coming? So it'd be like a really good gift for the enthusiasts who maybe didn't get their hands on it before, now that it's available here. And it's just a really fun game. You're running a bar, and it's a very nice worker dice drafting, dice placement.
Like a hand management
a
style
lot of
game.
hand management.
Little
All
deck
kinds of
building.
wonderful things that go into it to make it one of our very favorite games as a group, and one of mine personally as well.
I think one of the great things about this game, too, that's understated, especially from enthusiast gamers like us, is that it is modular. And as you introduce the game, you can introduce more components into the game as you play it. We obviously started with all the components, so you can play with the entirety of what the game offers. But if you want just a very base level of the game and introduce people to it, you can do that.
Yeah.
And that's the great thing about this game as well, is it does allow you to introduce the game in steps to people.
And all of those modules, if you do that, I guarantee you by the time you're done, you're not going to play without them.
Right.
Like
Right.
a good module is one where you're like, oh, that was cool. How could we not play with that again?
Exactly.
And that's how every single one of these aspects is in this game.
Yeah.
For sure.
Really good game. Mine is also a pretty accessible game, but with quite a bit of depth. And this came out, when did this come out? Gen Con? It was supposed to come out,
what's
I
the
think,
game?
at Origins. Oh, sorry. Hadara. They knew the game.
Yeah, okay.
Hodari is the game. This is from
Yeah.
Z-Man, and it is kind of in the vein of a Seven Wonders style game. It's not maybe quite that accessible, but it's that sort of game. It's a very abstract civilization building game, but it's really cool. You're collecting a ton of cards. Based on the type of cards you're collecting, you're effectively just going up these tracks and increasing your power in those tracks that allow you to do more things, get more of those cards. You can sort of diversify or not and go really strong in some of the colors. And it really, thematically, I think brings in the civilization building pretty well. It's not quite as abstract as something like Seven Wonders, but it is really fun to play. It's got some interesting ways of doing the draft too, because you're taking a card at first in the first phase of the draft and then discarding one into a discard pile. And then the second phase of the draft, you're taking cards off of those discard piles, but it has to be the top card off of the discard pile. So when you're doing the draft, you're thinking about not only what you want to take, but what you want other people not to have, but also maybe what you want in the second phase and where that's going to be in the stack. It makes it for some very interesting decisions.
Yeah, I can't suggest that game enough either. I love the feedback loop in this game because anytime you get a card, it does something right then. And it continually does that. There's this build-up engine effect tableau that you're building, and it's just
It builds up
super
huge, too.
Yeah, yeah.
Like, you go from very not powerful to extraordinarily powerful in some of those
and maybe
scales.
one or two of the tracks.
Yeah.
And there are a lot of different engines you can build with those cards too.
Yeah.
It's really unique.
All right, so my enthusiast, actually all of our enthusiast games, I can't imagine this not being on a lot of our top 10 lists. It's called Marvel Champions. It's from FFG. If it's any indication of how this game has changed David. You need to look to him because he is not a CCG player. He's not an LCG player. He's not even a card player, really. It can be intimidating for the first time that anyone gets into these type of games because of the sheer amount of cards that are involved in it. There's a lot of cards, but once you learn the system, it's incredibly rewarding. You're playing a superhero who has both a superhero side and an alter ego side, and you're flipping those back and forth, trying to go through scenarios that can be against Claw, can be against Ultron, it can be against Rhino, and there's expansions that will come out every single month. If you have a fan or someone who in your household that loves Marvel, and there's a lot of people now that are on the Marvel bandwagon because it's so good, this is a game that you have to try out. It's wonderfully made. It's just a purely enjoyable game.
I don't know if you mentioned that it's co-op, in case you didn't know, because
yeah.
that is the thing I think that made a big difference for me, is because I'm always intimidated by getting into those games because I don't want to sit across from you and
Sure.
play against you. But when you're co-oping it, it's just a totally different experience. Plus, the theme just pours out of this thing.
Yeah.
As stupid as it sounds, you have a backflip card in your hand with Spider-Man at just the right moment that saves all of your turns that round somehow. It just feels really, really thematic.
And that's another game that expansions could be out forever.
Oh.
Everyone wants to play their favorite Marvel hero.
It'll be
you
crazy.
said this was a must. Must have for sure. Any Marvel fan is going to absolutely love this game.
Yeah.
All right, what do you got?
All right, so mine would be Clank Legacy, which is a game that we played through earlier this year. We did a review on it that you can find, but this game I think is great for a gift because there is just so much to this game. I mean, the game is huge box, tons of components. Even when you're playing the game and opening new boxes, it feels like you're unwrapping smaller gifts inside of that because for a legacy game that can only be played once, I know a lot of people say, oh, well, because you're destroying things over time or whatever. But the experience is so fun and so interesting. And the way it takes the game like Clank, which people were, some people really love it. Some people were lukewarm on it. For people that love Clank, they're going to love this because it brings more to it. People that were lukewarm on Clank, I say try it because it changes Clank in a really interesting way. It gives you so much more to do than Clank does. And this was done in collaboration with Penny Arcade. And so if you're familiar with their humor, the way they tell the story, it's all pours through this game. It's very thematic, very funny, and just really interesting.
One thing I'll mention about Clank Legacy, it has played over 10 different games, so it's a campaign that you'll be playing through. And the sense of discovery in this game, if you're familiar at all with legacy games, they're games that add to it every single game you play. There's not outside of maybe Pandemic Legacy 2, this is probably the most intense for discovering new things. And the way the game flows, there's always new stickers being added. There's always new cards being introduced. There's always new story elements being introduced. There's always new scenarios that you have to try. There's just stuff that are being added every time. And maybe overload for some people. But for people that love legacy games, you have to try this game. It's so enjoyable.
So it's perfect for an enthusiast gamer, which is the category, right?
Absolutely.
And also, I think, doesn't it, like Betrayal, become a game you can continue to play once you're done with the legacy
Once you're
element?
done with yours, you're going to have a completely unique Clank Legacy board that uses way more mechanics, way more cards than you'd find in regular Clank, and personalized to you.
So those are our games. Now we're going to go around the table one more time to talk about something that we didn't discuss prior, and that's stocking stuffer specifically. And I posed the challenge to each of these to say, what would you want in your stocking if someone were to surprise you?
So this is for
That
us.
actually
This is
fits
for
in
you.
a stocking.
Yeah,
Right.
what would you like if someone
fits
were
in
to
a stocking.
surprise you with, if they were to put something in your stocking or send something to you or whatever it may be? That's board game related.
Board game related, okay.
Right?
Sure. You guys know I love dice, and I found a company. I actually got a set for my husband, and I really loved it. Level Up Dice, and there is a set I got for him because what the colors and stuff he likes. And they're gemstone dice. They're beautiful. So these are very high-end dice, and the set comes with the set I got came with a pendant. I kept the pendant. I would love to have a set of these Level Up Dice in a different style than the ones I got for my husband, because I every time I see them at a show, I'm always going back and kind of looking at them and going, can I get away with getting another set of these dice, and it not seeming crazy to have 2 sets of these very nice gemstone dice. So I love the level up dice.
I guess
Their
I didn't
dice
know
are
you were that
amazing.
into dice.
Oh,
We have a massive dice.
Yeah.
My
Really
husband and I both. Yeah, we both really
They have
like
some
the
of
dice.
the best dice on the market, and if you
They're so expensive too.
they
though.
are, but they're premium. I mean, they're really they're
Well,
really nice.
And you can get them in a, like the one I got for him is in a nice case, and then it came with a dice tray because they are gemstone. You don't want to roll them on something harder than the gemstone because they'll scratch. So it has a nice little dice tray
my.
that comes with them as well.
And if you've never seen their booth at a convention, their booth
Oh, the
presence
booth is incredible.
awesome.
Yeah.
Like it's just super futuristic looking, and everything's really
It's very sharp. It's like
Very
going. It's
sharp,
almost like
yeah.
going to a jewelry store
Right.
because
it's
it
very
is
nice.
gemstone dice.
Yeah.
So they're beautiful. Anyway,
Cool. Well, mine is nowhere near as like exciting sounding as that. But this is absolutely a guarantee for me. I would always take any geek bit off of BGG store for any of the games that I play.
Yeah.
So I think the only ones that I have currently, if anyone's giving me gifts, are Seasons. And these are those little acrylic pieces that they have for just about all of the most popular games these days. But ones that I don't have, all of you, is for Quacks of Quedlinburg. I'd love to have those, and I think I'd love to have the Orleans ones.
Oh, you want
I
those.
don't have those. I mean, I have the wood deluxe version of
they're better.
Orleans, but they do
They're
look.
nice.
don't you have
It's just-
underwater cities as well?
Yeah.
Oh yes, Underwater Cities.
have really
Put
nice
that to the
geek
top
bits.
of my list.
There you
Yeah.
go.
So there you go. Those are
Yeah,
my
I
stocking
was
stuffers.
going to mention that too. I'm glad you did. The Geek Up bits are awesome. I'm just the opposite. I buy them the moment that they come out. So those are incredible. Even the little bags they have there, the Geek Up bags. That
I have some
all
of
about
those.
Everything in
Gaia
the geek
Project.
store is great.
Yeah, they have great stuff. The other thing I'll mention is sleeves. I have a continual supply of sleeves. I have sleeves everywhere. They're actually, I just got talking with Born Dice, who have Paladin sleeves, and they have these matted sleeves that actually show up really well for live streamers. So if you're a live streamer and you want to stream and you don't want
got those
gloss on your
coming, right?
cards, and they're coming on their way, I can't wait till they show
Yeah,
up. But
Paladin
matted
sleeves.
sleeves are going to be awesome because now we can protect my games that I don't have to have
doesn't have to take
fingerprints
them
on
out.
or food on or be torn up. I can protect them and I can show them to you with matted sleeves. So sleeves. Send me
Yeah,
sleeves.
I thought sleeves is always you always need sleeves always.
I have a ton of sleeves. So
My stocking stuffer would be Keyforge decks. If you're not familiar
actually
with
a
this
good
game,
idea.
Keyforge it's not a CCG. It's not a customizable game at all. You have a deck and you just take that deck and you play it as is. So it's great for people that don't want to put a lot of investment
Yeah.
into this game. All you need is a deck to play, but it's got a collectible feel to it. And every deck is unique, so you don't have to worry about getting someone a deck that they already have. You're not going to be able to do that. And they're not expensive, so you could just easily drop a Keyforge deck or two into a stocking, and there you go. Like, it's fully playable and it's a lot of fun.
And the other thing to mention about the Keyforge decks, they're all named by some weird computer
Random
system.
generator.
So the Keyforge deck you buy for one of your friends is going to be completely differently named from a different one.
Yeah,
And
that's,
unique.
that's a
It's
good
crazy.
point.
The whole thing is unique, isn't
It's
it?
almost become like a Pokemon-esque kind of thing. There's an
Little
app
bit.
where you can scan your deck and it tracks all the different named decks you have. And like that game came out almost over a year ago, but
About a
it's-
year ago.
Expansion came out recently this year, and it's just continuing to grow in Steam. And so, yeah, I think a lot of people are interested in it. Might not think about getting decks for themselves, so just
Yeah. Hopefully that gives you guys a good idea of the games that you can buy for your friends and family. If you have any suggestions of your own, leave them in the comments below. We hope all of you guys have a very happy and safe holiday, and we will catch you guys next time.
Bye-bye.